Hola Spain lovers, Stuart here with another video, and it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, the anti-tourism movement in this country, which seems to be growing on a yearly basis. As we know, Spain welcomes over 90 million international tourists a year. Soon that figure is going to hit 100 million, and it's one of the most visited countries in the world. But in recent times, something's changed. Across cities on mainland Spain like Barcelona, Valencia or Malaga, and in the Canary Islands, you'll see signs like this one telling tourists to go home. So what's going on? Are Spaniards truly fed up with tourism? And if they are, what does that mean for the future of travel to this country? Those are some of the things that I'm going to talk about today. But before I do, I'm a little bit hungry. Going to go and find some breakfast, sit down and continue with this video. So let's go. So let's talk about some of the signs of frustration here in Spain when it comes to over-tourism. And the most notable sign in recent times have been the tourist protests that have taken place in various cities around Spain over the last few years. In fact, not only the last few years, because these protests started happening before COVID, so before 2020, but in recent years, they've taken on a whole new level. Cities like Barcelona, Valencia, Malaga in the south of Spain, in the Canary Islands too, on the island of Lanzarote, on the island of Tenerife, protests have also been taking place. In fact, this year, various protests have already happened on the Canary Islands. But it's not only those cities where some citizens, and I'll say some citizens, have expressed their discontent with tourism. It's also started to happen in the north of the country, in the Basque country as well, and other cities where tourism is considered to be out of control by some locals. And these protests hit a whole new level last year in the city of Barcelona around this time of year. I think it was when protesters decided to squirt tourists with water pistols when they were sitting down having lunch. And of course that sparked outrage in the international press. And protesters this year have also said that they want to take things to another level again with more protests that are coming up soon. But I'll speak about that at the end of the video. Anti-tourism graffiti has also been popping up in recent times in the tourist hotspots here in Spain, locals showing their frustration by writing on walls. Spain's housing crisis has also put the tourism industry in the spotlight because there's a lack of housing in some of the major cities here nowadays due to the Airbnb effect. Airbnbs in Spanish cities have popped up like mushrooms in the last 3 or 4 years. And of course, as a result of this, many locals can't find long-term rents, and that is frustrating them. And with the proliferation of Airbnbs in many of the central parts of Spanish cities, locals are being pushed out of those areas that were traditionally occupied by the local population, but nowadays you'll only find tourists there. And we've also got to talk about the strain that is put on local services as a result of the influx of tourists. Rubbish collection, for example. Public transport becomes more crowded too, and beaches and town squares are completely overrun by foreign visitors. And let's not forget the environmental strain, especially in coastal areas. Coastal towns and cities whose population in the summer months can sometimes triple or even quadruple, and that puts a huge environmental strain on that area. So those are some of the reasons why locals are frustrated, and their frustration is growing. And let's be honest, you can't really blame them, can you? Now, before I continue, I want to give a shout out to the people at Sandmark for sending me this backpack and also this travel sling. And these two items have come in very handy on my recent travels around Spain. If you're not familiar with Sandmark, they are a California-based company whose objective is to help people move smarter and travel lighter. And I'm going to say that I have been impressed by the quality of their gear. The backpack is sturdy and has loads of compartments. You can fit your clothes in here, you can fit all of your gear. For me, for example, fitting all of my camera gear in here as well, room for laptops. And this item here, the travel sling, is perhaps what has impressed me the most, especially when I'm out and about filming. I want light gear, I want small gear, and all of my cameras fit into this travel sling, and it came in very, very handy. So check out Sandmark and try their products for yourself. If you like traveling like me and you want some sturdy travel gear, like for example the ones that I have showed you today, Sandmark is the company for you. Now back to the video. So what are locals here in Spain saying about this issue? Well, as you can imagine, opinion is divided. You've got the voices of the protesters, of course, who are kicking up a stink. They would argue that they are being priced out of their neighbourhoods, that they are losing the soul of their cities. Many people recognise that without tourists, lots of local businesses would struggle, but too many tourists gives people the sensation that they are drowning. And that is where the issues lie, and those are some of the big challenges that politicians in this country are facing. But I think the general consensus among locals here in Spain is that a balance needs to be found, a balance between the huge numbers of tourists and the quality of life of locals here. Everyone understands how important tourism is for the Spanish economy, around 12% of GDP, I believe, but in the main tourist areas, especially some of the coastal areas, that GDP can be up around 40 or 50%. So a huge reliance of tourism in those areas. And that's something that has been built up over the last 4 or 5, maybe 6 decades. Spain has pushed for this. They have developed the infrastructure. And we all saw what happened here during COVID times when the tourism industry was decimated because people couldn't travel. Some locals might have been rejoicing during those COVID times, but business owners here, I can tell you, were not. Now, it's important to note, in fact, very important to note, that this frustration, this anti-tourist frustration, is not being felt all over Spain, only in the main tourist areas. So when we talk about main tourist areas, I've mentioned them earlier in the video: Barcelona, Canary Islands, the south of Spain, Andalusia, Valencia, places like that. Maybe even Madrid, the capital city, is suffering from this now. But there are other parts of the country that still welcome tourists with open arms. Think Castilla-La Mancha, think Castilla y León, think Extremadura. Places like that still want tourists. In fact, they want more tourists to go there. But of course, they don't have all of the attractions that the previous places that I mentioned have. And that's one of the issues too. So there are places in Spain where you will not experience an anti-tourism sentiment. And that, for the time being, is a thumbs up. Now, another question that needs to be asked here is, are tourists partly responsible for the anti-tourism sentiment here in Spain? And the simple answer to this question is, it depends. Now, obviously, you can't blame 98% of the foreign tourists that come to this country for the issues that the locals have, but probably 2% you can. And that 2% of tourists, what I like to call the ugly tourist, can really get locals offside. We all know who these ugly tourists are. I've spoken about them in other videos that I have put out recently, but basically go to some of the more popular beach resorts in the country and you'll see this type of tourist. The tourist that has no respect for the local culture, the tourist that puts their own pleasure above everybody else's pleasure, the tourist that drinks too much and as a consequence behaves badly, basically the tourist that doesn't give a shit about Spain or any other country that they happen to be visiting. We all know that type of tourist, right? And if you look in the comment section on the videos that I have done on this type of tourist, you'll see lots of comments from locals here in Spain saying why they despise this type of tourist. But I know what some people are going to say. Spain has encouraged this type of tourism. Spain has encouraged this type of tourist for decades. And the answer is yes, that might be the case, but the tide is slowly turning, in my opinion. Party tourism is what many locals don't want. A more sustainable, family-friendly tourism is what they do want. And can we blame tourists for the proliferation of short-term tourist rentals in major cities here in Spain? I don't know. It's a question of supply and demand. Or do we blame locals or speculators that want to cash in on this phenomenon? That's the question, and I'll let you guys answer it in the comment section below. So, what is being done about this problem, the problem of over-tourism here in Spain? Well, as you would expect, when the locals are restless, politicians start to react. Tourist taxes have been introduced in various places here in Spain. The latest city that is talking about introducing a tourist tax is the city of Santiago de Compostela, which is also overrun by tourism nowadays. Other towns and cities have either introduced short-term rental limits or are talking about bringing this in. The cities of Barcelona and Malaga spring to mind when it comes to limiting short-term rentals, and there are many campaigns to encourage tourists to visit Spain in the off-season or go to less crowded parts of the country. So the message is starting to become clear. Spain wants respectful, sustainable tourism, not a mass invasion. So to sum up this video, it's all about finding a balance between preserving the tourism industry and keeping locals happy. And believe me, that is going to be a difficult thing to achieve, especially with the quality of politicians in this country. It requires thoughtful policies from politicians, community engagement, and a need to be innovative. So what is 2025 and beyond going to look like as far as this issue is concerned? Well, if we listen to some of the protesters, they seem to be willing to take this fight to a whole new level this year. For example, headlines like this one here are making the international press, and they're fairly ugly. We want tourists to have some level of fear. Coordinated anti-tourism protests set to disrupt Spanish hotspots. So who knows what tactics these protesters or agitators are going to use this year and going forward. And let's hope that a solution can be found soon that satisfies both sides, but personally, I'm not optimistic. Now, if you're watching this video, the chances are that you have visited Spain or are planning to visit Spain soon, and I would love to hear your input on this matter in the comment section below. Have you encountered the downsides or the negative aspects of mass tourism here in Spain? Or have you found ways to travel more sustainably, perhaps by going to some of the lesser known parts of the country? I'd love to hear your opinions in the comment section below, as I said. Also, give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. If you are not a subscriber of this channel, please hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you know every time I release a new video. Until the next one, hasta luego from sunny Spain.